If there's ever a sign that race baiting, division, and bickering behind the scenes needs to stop and has jumped the shark, we've got the prime example here where Karmelo Anthony is having a successful GoFundMe account. We'll discuss. Tyreek Hill, scandals. And what's his future in the league? And speaking of jumping the shark, Chad, we have the NIL version of that officially. All that and more straight ahead. Here on Hot Mic, we hope you'll like, comment, and subscribe to the OutKick YouTube channel. Glad you're with us. Chad, the world, is this an example of being so messed up that Karmelo Anthony, not the former NBA player, the track and field athlete who allegedly stabbed another competitor and killed him last week in a tournament in a track meet down in Texas. Chad, is the world so messed up that this is officially the example now of a GoFundMe that is started in order to point to the racial issues involved in this?
Yeah, well, there's a number of factors here that I'm going to dive into that's all equally disturbing. So Karmelo Anthony is the young guy who stabbed Austin Metcalf, another young person, a high school athlete, to death. Austin Metcalf then died in the arms of his twin brother. Those are the facts of the case. All right, I don't know why Karmelo Anthony had a knife on him at a track meet. I don't know what was said leading up to it, but the bottom line is one person unarmed was stabbed in the heart and killed by another young person. It's a tragedy. It's terrible. And to think about Austin Metcalf dying in the arms of his twin brother at that age, just awful at any age, but especially for someone so young with so much promise. And it's a tragedy all the way around. Karmelo Anthony is in a lot of trouble, obviously, because of this. Well, you would think he's in a lot of trouble. There was a time where everybody could agree on things in this country. There was a time where I think Ronald Reagan had like an 82% approval rating in the United States as president. There was a time where everyone would say, hey, I like ice cream, or I like pizza. They would agree that things tasted good. Or they would say things like cancer is bad, or murder is bad. But now if something happens, it's automatically divided into halves, no matter what. And we're seeing it once again. And the media is a big part of the problem with all of this. And now with new media, it's so much worse. And this isn't just the fault of mainstream media. It's the fault of people online that are either trolling or Russian bots or hackers or AI experts that are manipulating things in some way to sow even more division and racial strife in this country. And it's pathetic. And it's getting so old. And when you have this disease, a symptom of that disease is the fact that Karmelo Anthony has raised over $200,000 in a GoFundMe account because false stories, totally fake news, was put out there and bought up by the public because some damn algorithm served this up to them where they saw it, or actual journalists were fooled by it and reposted it. There's these fake stories out there that Frisco authorities are talking about that it was in self-defense for Karmelo Anthony. There's conspiracy theories I've read that Austin Metcalf actually died of a drug overdose and he wasn't even stabbed to death, and that Karmelo Anthony's the fall guy. And all of these BS reports and stories and manipulations that are coming from all over the place leads to a GoFundMe starting that gets $200,000, more than that, for the defense of someone who's a cold-blooded murderer. I mean, the facts are there. The facts are what they are. Facts are facts. Truth is truth. It's not your truth. It's not my truth. The truth is a 17-year-old boy died as a stabbing victim, and another young person committed that crime. And the person who died in the arms of their twin brother. But because media manipulates so much, and they're always looking for a narrative, and of course, mainstream media to blame for a lot of this when it comes to racial things, and then other media jumps in and goes far the other way in the other direction to combat it, and we have this tennis game back and forth that doesn't lead to truth. It leads back to what I said before. Everyone wants to talk about their truth, your truth, my truth. There's actual truth in this world, and we got to start acknowledging the truth. Because if we don't acknowledge the truth, what we end up with is over $200K in a GoFundMe account for a kid who stabbed another kid. And I'm sick of it.
Well, and GoFundMe disabled the account. It's now on GoSendGo, which I've never used. Maybe that's part of the algorithm that doesn't get to me. It's over 300,000 now. And, Chad, racial strife sells.
It absolutely does.
And here's
it's
the thing.
an entire
it sells,
industry.
But it sells because we buy it. That's why it continues to be sold. If straight news would be sold down the middle, we'd have the PBS nightly news being pushed to us throughout the algorithm. It just doesn't go that way. It's a 24-hour news cycle. It's what is trending now. The headline of whatever we are using today as a promotion for what we're doing on this segment is worded in a way that it'll hit our algorithm. Everything is that now. And I don't even know tell me what is the algorithm? Who comes up with the algorithm? I guess ultimately it's what sells. And that's the other part of this is as a general public, we're at a point where we cannot have a conversation. We have to have an argument. It's always a debate. It's one or the other. It is first take to put it out of politics into the sports. It's the first take
It's
element.
literally black or white about everything.
Right. And by and large,
literally.
The majority of it is gray.
Yeah.
By and large, that's where we end up. But we're not conditioned or pushed to find the gray.
Yeah, and this is one. You're right. There's nuance and everything, but there's nothing gray about this story.
No, but
this is black and white truth.
No, see,
one guy murdered another guy.
But
that's the fact.
I agree. But what sells is, can we blur the lines and make people think this is some kind of conspiracy?
Yes.
And therein lies the web of bullshit.
Well, and here's where we really went wrong, Hutton. And I've seen a lot of discourse about this also. Like the difference between dramatic entertainment, okay? Like a true story that becomes a show. A good example is Adolescence, which is the most popular thing on Netflix, which I've talked about, which is taken from an actual story about a 13-year-old boy killing a young girl.
Yeah.
And then it's been taken and that's been adapted into a show that's very compelling, very well done, very powerful. But in that, it was, I think, an African immigrant that killed the 13-year-old girl in real life in England. And they made it a white kid, a British, white kid that killed the girl. I didn't know anything about it until I saw the online discourse for it, okay? That's whatever. All right, that's whatever. Like Jake Brigance from the great book and movie A Time to Kill, played by Matthew McConaughey, did a whole speech at the end of it based on this concept, right? To drum up more emotion with a white jury, he asked the jury to close their eyes, and he told a horrific true story about a young girl getting raped, beaten, and left for dead, right? And then in the end, he says, now imagine she's white. That was to appeal more to a white jury at the time. This is dramatic retellings of things, right? It didn't make that show, Adolescence, any less powerful to me. It wouldn't have made it any more powerful had it been a black kid that was on trial too. It would not have. That was a choice made by Netflix, maybe to appeal to more people or to not get, I don't know, ostracized because they're showing a black perpetrator of a crime. I don't know. Again, though, these are things that are written, scripted, done. The real problem that we've crossed over into now, Hutton, is we've taken that concept of we can make entertainment a certain way and we can show representation, we can put this on the screen, we can do that. And now we do it with news. Like we actually retell the news based on what people think their audience wants to hear. And this has started with a lot in the mainstream that let's fit this narrative into this and tell this story and color it a certain way that isn't really factual at times.
But what is mainstream now?
And we blurred the whole thing.
Is this coming from the CBS Nightly News? Is this from NBC World News Tonight? I don't see that. Like, what is mainstream now? And what's considered mainstream? Like, that's also when we say it's coming from the news. It's what we perceive to be the news now, and that's also to me very gray.
I think when it comes with the mainstream, I'll answer your question on that because I think it's a good one. I think when it comes to that, yes, I don't see. I'm not turning on CBS or NBC and seeing like, hey, this kid really he had it in for him, and he just got what he deserved on this. I mean, there's none of that going on with mainstream news when it comes to that. It's the stories that they decide to cover and how much it's beaten into the ground versus what either may be ignored
Okay.
or just kind of presented and then left.
But that's different than
that's
the fake.
where that's where they blur the lines.
That's
a little
different
bit.
than putting out fake
Totally
information
different.
for an
Totally
algorithm. And so
This is the algorithm
my
stuff
God.
is a bigger problem.
Because I'm so hesitant now.
and the fake news stuff is a much bigger problem.
Let's just say, yes, the fact that we took away the verification of accounts, I say we. Like,
and you could pay for it?
You pay for it.
Yeah.
But some people, I don't. So like you end up having, there could be multiple. I don't know which celebrity account is the official one anymore. So I don't know what is being put. I have to double check to make sure sports news is correct. And there's not like an extra, an R on Schefter or something at the end of a tweet. It's so, I hate it, but it's also funneled to me because I like sports news, right? Like in this case, if you're on one side or the other, you're going to get pushed a certain narrative. And I mean, it's easy to have people stay on one side or the other with this. With any story, they can always go back to the racial aspect of it because it sells. And I know it's deeper than that. Some people just want to hate for the sake of they're happy whenever they hate.
Yes.
But I don't think that's the majority of people.
And it's not just like, I think everybody looks at this and they think, man, this is just people on the fringes that actually buy this stuff or, that read into it. It's really not. Like I had a lunch with a lot of men in my family who do it once every couple of weeks. And these are, pretty well accomplished professional people, families, fathers, multiple kids, some grandparents. And I brought up this story, Hutton, and they're like, oh, well, I read on the news or I saw on the news where, the kid was provoked to do this.
Right.
Like he was threatened. And I, oh, you mean that wasn't real? Oh, I saw something official from authorities in Frisco, Texas said this. And I said, totally made up. The Frisco, Texas authorities have said this is a totally made up story that looks official, like Frisco cops are saying that he was provoked. And it's not even true. My point being, I'm not saying that to mock members of my family. It's that I guarantee you someone in the news that you trust reposted that on Facebook or reposted on X because they didn't know, because they thought it was legit, because it looked legit, and they reposted it, and then they went to all of their followers. And now we end up in this cycle where people get news that's not real all the time. Yep. And it's just sad.
So here's an example. The In Wokeness is an account on social. If you haven't seen their account, you're not in their algorithm, I guess. In Wokeness on X showed the extreme reaction to the situation.
Y'all not going to make me believe or feel any kind of sympathy for Austin Metcalf at all. He put his hands on that young man when he should have kept them hands to himself. When the young man told him, touch me and see, you bet not touch me, that meant that I don't want you in my space. I don't want you touching me. Rosa Parks days is over. You cannot think that you can move somebody out of a seat that you don't own and think that it's going to be okay. And you can't determine how I'm going to retaliate on you when you put your hands on me in an aggressive manner. Austin Metcalf got exactly what he deserved. Point blank, period. It's time out for feeling sorry for somebody's feelings or feeling emotional about somebody's feelings. Austin Metcalf should have kept his damn hands to himself. Point blank, period.
Point blank, period. See, I don't know where she got her information.
Feeling bad for someone's
Was
feelings.
she there in the tent?
Well, and I think she actually has the actual story. She's just saying that he deserved it because he put his hands on him, because he told him to get out of the tent. And then when he said, make me, he actually made him, and then he stabbed him. So he got what he deserved, I guess, is what she's saying. Yeah. This is someone who's too online. Like, I see this, and I'm like, they are surrounded by a bubble. I don't think she was probably always that way. I think she was a little bit that way, probably, to be that extreme about it. But she has been conditioned because she's online, surrounded by an algorithm that pumps shit to her from people that might think that way. And then all of a sudden you start regurgitating that and saying it on camera to where you're not hireable anymore. Like, that's what I'm sure you can go certain places and get a job, but nowhere of note would I hire you if you put a video out saying this 17-year-old kid deserved to die because he put his hands on somebody that he was telling to get out of his own tent. Like, this is just the foolishness that I'm talking about, and it's on display right there. It's a woman who's too online.
Well, and too online leads to, if this were white on white, black on black, they didn't get what they. This is not what they deserve.
No, not at all.
And so that's what is stirred up in this. We wouldn't be discussing this, Chad, as overcovered, undercovered, fake, real, whatever. If it's Austin Metcalf was white, or it was killed by someone who's white, or if he was black and killed by someone who was black, just wouldn't.
Mm-mm.
And so that's the other issue with all this, is because it's the news makes and the algorithm feeds very black or white, both literally and figuratively. And we can't have the discussion of why. Or why we buy it.
It's also like it's so bad and so out there and so common, and it's become comedy. There's an SNL sketch. I know Shane Gillis was in one of them. They've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
Where it's newscasters. It's Kenan Thompson.
Yeah.
It's
yes.
two black newscasters, two white newscasters, and they're taking bets on the next story, and they go to the teleprompter, and they're celebrating whether or not it's a white person or black person who did the crime. And it's really funny. Right, and
then they're betting on who it is.
Comedy, we laugh at it because it's true.
Right.
Because this is what either side is rooting for every time. I don't root for 17-year-olds to get stabbed to death. So let's acknowledge the tragedy of it and not immediately go to, oh gosh, boy, that's Austin Metcalf must have deserved it, or he must have provoked him, or if I tell you don't lay your hands on me and you lay your hands on me, whatever happens to you can happen, and it's completely justified according to this woman. This type of insanity is what becomes comedy.
But I totally agree. Let's also say, like,
it's a funny sketch.
The discussion in large, if we really want to narrow it down, from a broad angle, it's why do you feel like he got what he deserved, right? On the other side, it's how dare you say it's all because Austin Metcalf is white, so he's being protected here. Karmelo Anthony also needs protection. We need a GoFundMe or a GoFundGo account in retaliation here. Narrowed down, it needs. We have to get to a sense where, on one side we hear the extreme, on the other side it's, well, they hate white people. Why? I think we have to narrow the discussion down to why do we get into those columns, those silos, and why are we conditioned to automatically have a reaction of, instead of why does this woman believe that, and we have a discussion about it and where she's getting the information, to that's pure hate. That's the real crux of this, is unless we do that, we'll still be fed this algorithm that provides clicks, views, listens, and ultimately pushes black or white and no gray. And if it is a black and white truth versus, lie that's being fed, then they want to create the gray.
Yeah, and I just think
you see what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely, well said. And I just think the more like we put these down and just be in the world and live, like it's not.
But the media also needs to.
Everything that's presented to you, like, yes, there's going to be outlier cases and you're going to run into certain things, and shit happens when you're out in the public and around people. But I would also argue that the world that is portrayed to you is not the real world. Like, we are in Hutton, a city that's very diverse, right? Lots of races, not just black and white. And I'm around people of all races all the time. And there's very few issues that I ever see. Very few. Will they happen occasionally? Of course, life happens. But it's just not what's being sent to us about what's happening.
And let's also say, I found myself guilty of it 30 seconds ago. The media. Well, if you can repost a fake story, I look at what you consider to be media, and let's redefine that, because all of a sudden everything is a media outlet, and it's easy to pretty much get away with it now.
Yeah, and look, I think Disney, ESPN, and Pat McAfee's having to deal with this on a completely different story.
That's a great example, though.
But it's like, everyone now has come to the argument of, why is a teenager's sex life being discussed on ESPN? Well, that's the big question. Like, whatever you think about Pat McAfee, entertaining guy, energetic, like, why would ESPN want to air that. Now, Pat McAfee has the right to do whatever he wants. That's his platform that he started in his show.
But he didn't start.
That he makes more off on YouTube.
He didn't start the story.
Yeah, now
right.
now the story's become like, why is ESPN doing this? Because now you've turned it into an ESPN problem. Because you are partnering with him on his show where he has full content control and does whatever he wants. So now it's a you problem. So what's funny to him? And there's all these different questions. And I'm not out here to crucify Pat McAfee over it, right? Of like talking about something that was funny to him and his buddies. That was a big online rumor. He didn't mention the girl's name. There's some other ways to look at this, but we lose sight, Hutton, that these are actual people, right? Like that girl that everybody saw her. I saw it. Like people I follow online were posting about it. Like we all saw it.
I saw it before McAfee did it on his show. It's just a viral deal.
We all saw the name. We saw the sorority. We saw the girl. Like that's an actual person. And I do think we need to take a step back at times and realize like Daniel Metcalf's an actual kid with actual parents and actual siblings who died because he was stabbed over a altercation over a tent. At a track meet.
And let's also say
we have to keep that in mind in all of this.
And Karmelo Anthony, the kid at the bottom, is also a real person who felt the need to stab him.
Yes.
For some reason.
Whose life is never going to be the same.
Question why?
Yes.
Why he felt the need to stab him to death. Like that's also a valid question to ask in all of this, instead of saying, automatic murderer because he just pure hate and turn it into a black-white issue on that side. Like that. Instead, it is a soup. All these different opinions are thrown in, and then you pick the side that you want to be a part of, or you just stay on the side that you're in because the algorithm is telling you to. It's a fascinating discussion, Chad. Unfortunately, we can't have the discussion and get the same amount of reaction as you could if we simply said this kid deserves the death penalty. Right.
Which, by the way, I'm reading the story now from the New York Post. They can't seek that anyways with a 17-year-old.
Well, no, but you're saying, I'm saying, like, even if we said that this needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, look, Clay Travis founded this company on authentic, funny, smart. Are those the three pillars?
Yeah.
That he always talks about? Well, the first one's authentic. You're going to get authentic here. I'm not going to feed you a bunch of bullshit because somebody told me that. I'm going to think the way I want to think, and I'm going to look into the story on all sides when I can, and I'm not always going to get it right. Hunt's not always going to get it right. We're going to have opinions that you agree with. We're going to have opinions that piss you off. My hope is that we have opinions that also challenge you to think about things at least. Even if you don't agree, you can think about them in a different way. And if you do agree, maybe it challenges you to think opposite of what we're saying at times if you thought you agreed to begin with. But one thing we're always going to be is authentic.
The way Clay describes it is SOFA. Smart, original, funny, authentic.
That's it.
And
I feel like original and authentic are kind of the same. A little bit
changing
redundant, but I do like the SOFA acronym. I like how you put the SOFA acronym in.
Do you like our shirts today? I do. Masters. What do you think?
I think it looks great.
Got the
I think we always look great, but today even better.
Chad and I told Chad I'm wearing green. I figured he would be as well. Or I didn't know if you wear the white Masters shirt as well.
No, I have. So this is the one. I've got two shirts that I bought in the pro shop at Augusta National. Humble brag.
Is this it?
This is one, and I've got another one that's like sort of a pink. Not pink. I'm trying to think of the right color. Fuchsia. Fuchsia and blue striped with the Masters logo on it.
Salmon.
A salmon. Yes. Salmon, and I wish I had my daughter's.
I'm trying to describe the color.
If I had my daughter's crayon box right now, I could pick out the color and tell you.
Could it be coral?
Exactly what I'm thinking about. Not as much coral, more salmon.
Okay.
Salmon and like a light Carolina blue.
It's a sexy salmon.
Stripe. Yeah, it's very springtime. Very springtime in Georgia is how I would describe the colors of the shirt. I'll wear that for you tomorrow, Hutton. How about that?
Let's do it.
It's Masters Week.
I'm wearing the caddy jumper tomorrow. I brought it in today, but I decided to keep with the green.
Someone else on our show today is going to be wearing that.
Yeah, that's right. Eric Decker is coming in later in the show today. Chad, we're discussing jumping the shark and where we are right now. College football. You sent this to the group, and I would have another discussion on this because we could spend an hour on where we're headed. We're in a day and age where it's not good enough to get what you have in college football as a player because you're wide open to ask for more and demand more. And there's really no protection of the college or the player from an NIL standpoint right now. And Nico
Iamaleava.
Iamaleava,
You had it.
always
You were
screw this
rolling
up.
with it, and you stopped it. Yeah.
So he's making $2 million. Is this right? To get what is he?
Allegedly,
Millions.
and I'll say yes. He's making. I mean, you can round up or round down, but he's making $2 million a year.
Okay.
This was the first giant quarterback contract for an entire time in college that was reported, that was rumored, that was out there. And Tennessee signed it with Nico Iamaleava for $2 million a year.
And this is where I don't know if it starts here with that story, but everyone reacted, oh my, before he even takes a snap, he's getting this. Well, now, in the world of players getting paid, especially at that position, he's not it's just kind of glossed over that he's making what he's making. And so reports are he's asking for more right now in the middle of spring on 3 with the Post that they are in active contract negotiations ahead of the 2025 season, according to Pete Nakos. It's unclear if the negotiations will impact whether he enters the spring transfer portal, which is just around the corner. Man, oh man. This is the example of why we have to have some structure and leadership at the very top, but it's also having some common sense with where we're headed in a settlement for NCAA and having a cap on where we are and what we're spending, but that's not going to stop this aspect of all the time 100% free agency in college football, and that sucks.
Well, and I think also we've swung way too far in the direction of, well, coaches get to do it, so players can do it, and they can kind of do what they want. I mean,
there's still some structure there with the coaches.
Yes,
some.
Also coaches, Bobby Petrino got crushed for leaving his team, during the end of the season in the NFL, right? A college coaches have decided to retire after a spring practice or leading up to a season, but a college coach that did this, that goes through an entire spring practice and gets done with spring practice and decides, for whatever reason, like, I don't really like my team that much, we're not going to be that good, now's the time to strike. Let's get my agent on the phone with other schools and see if they'll fire their coach and hire me in May or whenever it's going to be leading into a season. That doesn't even happen. So I want to cut through the crap of that, all right? I have reason to believe that Nico Iamaleava is not negotiating with Tennessee on this. His representatives are testing the market. They are talking to other schools about what it would be of value to them for 1 year of service to leave Tennessee. I don't think any offer has been brought to Tennessee. I don't know that any unhappiness has been brought to Tennessee about him being there. I think this is more of a play of, let's go to some different places that may need a quarterback. If they can improve their situation with Nico, how much would they pay for 1 year? Let's get into the weeds of this, okay? Because this whole thing really kind of pisses me off. The adjustment, okay? Pete Nakos is talking about this. He's the one who broke the story from On 3, and he posts that this was one of the original big contracts with Tennessee, but that because other quarterbacks have been paid more in the last couple of years, now there's going to be an adjustment is what he's looking for in his contract. Pete, was there an adjustment when he made $2 million to sit the bench for a year? I mean, is that money going to go back to Tennessee now? Because this was a multi-year deal where he got paid $2 million to do nothing, all right? And I don't want to be harsh on the kid because I think he's a good player and I think he had a good season, but he's not great. He did not have a great statistical year. They did not get Hendon Hooker in his terrific year that he had with Tennessee, with Nico this last year. Now, that's not me saying Tennessee should move on or look for someone else or he's a bust or he's a disappointment. No, he's not. He's the quarterback of a team who got to the college football playoff in the first year of the expanded playoff. All right? He's a good quarterback, and he may have a pro future. He's not Hendon Hooker at Tennessee. He's not Cam Ward at Miami from a statistical standpoint of what he means to a team. All right? So this, I want more money because I don't know, Carson Beck got more money to go 1 year to play at Miami. That's a different market. And now he's trying to play in a completely different market. It went from, I want multi-year guarantees to make as much money as possible, to commit to a school, to a program, to be a multi-year starter, which he got. And people laughed at Tennessee, by the way.
Yeah, they did.
Thinking that was way too much money to pay anyone at the time. But that's what he got. And now after one above-average good season, you're going to try to play in a different market and dip your toes into a different market, which is the one-and-done market, which would lead to more money for one season for a star quarterback to go and save a program. I think the whole thing stinks.
Oh, I agree. And I don't like this from the 30,000-foot view. I want to also look at it from Nico's angle and try to find out why you do this. Okay. This is the last time, we presume, Chad, the last time that we will enter a spring transfer portal where there is no cap. And by and large, if you see the other contracts for quarterbacks, the top ones who are playing, and Chad laid out some of these names who are good, not great, or that have 1 year to go, you have a percentage of the cap allocated to that individual. And Nico would be viewing it, I'd say Nico, his reps would be viewing it as this percentage is lower no matter if he ends up being better. Okay. You kind of get locked into that after this spring because teams, colleges will be allocating money, and that's the percentage of what you're getting, and it's hard to go up very much from that percentage based on the allocations that they're structured under because you're not there for very long. The percentage could be higher 10 years from now, but I think everyone understands what I'm saying here. There's also the timing aspect. Coaches don't leave after spring because there's not a spring transfer portal for coaches. The timing is now because there is a portal that is allowed. And after this, you're locked in at that number, and there is no negotiation window here. This is the leverage that he has because it's allowed within the structure of this system that is BS. Like that, everything, I point fingers at every aspect of this, not just the player, because the player's been set up to have to use this time to do it. And if you know that there's a cap coming, but there's not one right now, you can maybe get a higher percentage than what they would be willing to give you next year. And, I mean, good quarterback, yes. There are backups now that are going to be making closer to what Nico's making than what he's close to making compared to the top quarterback in college football. That's the mindset I would take if I'm on his side of things. But is $2 million enough for what we're comparing to the NFL? Absolutely. For the type of production that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
It's messed up, but the timing is allowed to happen now. And as long as we have this spring transfer portal window, this is when quarterbacks especially, but other players too, are going to play their cards because the agents and the parents and relatives and whoever is in their corner, their circle, their leadership council.
They're trying to get paid.
Yeah. I mean, when I was 17 to 20 years old, I wouldn't be able to come up with this type of thing and negotiate it. I mean, it's not just on him. This is what the business reps are telling him is the play. And the play is the play because, well, this is the lack of leadership that we have in college football right now. It sucks. The portal shouldn't be in this time frame.
Yeah, and by the way, this is in the reporting from Pete Nakos at On 3.
Yeah.
Multiple sources have confirmed that his current contract is between $2.2 and $2.5 million.
There you go.
Which is actually a jump up from the initial 3-year deal that was reported in March of 2022. He was the highest paid quarterback in the nation. But now Carson Beck and Darian Mensah are making $3 million to be a one and done, essentially, at Duke and at Miami, right?
Yes.
So they hope to get a contract done before Saturday's orange and white game.
Man.
Look, if I had to guess right now, I think this probably ends with Nico Iamaleava getting more money and just staying at Tennessee, and then we're not really talking about it, a month from now, because he's still going to be on the roster.
When they say, Chad, when they say hope to get it done by the orange and white game, okay, that's
Saturday.
Is that Nico's side saying that?
So
they're also saying
this is from the story. Sources have indicated that Nico is happy at Tennessee and has a strong relationship with head coach Josh Heupel.
Okay.
The Vols are trying to finalize a new contract before Saturday's orange and white spring game.
Okay. Because the very last sentence in the report in the post from On3 says it's unclear if the negotiations will impact whether he enters the spring transfer. So he would do that after the orange and white game.
Yes.
So that's why it's mentioned there that they hope to get it done by then. Which is, again, man, like this is
well, it's someone leaking the story because they want to get it done, and now that it's out, there's going to be a little bit more pressure to get it done. Let me add to it and say this. There's going to be a large segment of Tennessee fans or any fan of any school out there that will just respond and say, just pay him the money. Just give him an extra $500,000. Just give him an extra $300,000. Just pay him the money's not unlimited, guys and gals. I hate to break it to you.
That's right.
It's not. That's easy for us to say. I don't have the money to give money to Tennessee athletes, right? Clay Travis does. And Clay Travis donates, right? Or he'll donate and do that because he has the funds to do it. But, and I'm using just Clay as an example, if they go to Clay a year from now, though, and are like, hey, man, we got to re-up with this kid who hasn't played or didn't play up to expectations. I don't think he's in a hurry to give that guy more money. And no one would. They're already not getting any return on investment other than their own joy. You are purchasing your own joy because you love the team so much. You want to see them have success. And that success leads to you being happy about that success. Here's the other thing. Tennessee's got another 5-star quarterback on their roster, and they got another almost 5-star quarterback on their roster. Those dudes aren't playing for free. They're not on the roster for free. You are paying 3 quarterbacks a lot of money. So this will not happen. I will say it right now. It will not happen. And I don't think Josh Heupel is going to be the one to do it. But some coach somewhere is going to come to one of these players personally, when they're approached by one of the handlers or a parent or whoever's doing it, and say, dude, we're good with your backup plan. Play here or not, we don't care. We're not giving you a dime more. We paid you over $2 million to sit the bench for a year. And we've been developing other quarterbacks, and I'm paying another guy over $1 million, which I'm pretty sure is the case. That's not going to play this year right now because he's waiting his turn behind you, who we paid in high school to come here. I mean, at some point, the foolishness has to stop. But Hutton, no one's going to do that because in doing that, you have to be okay with the consequence, and the consequence could mean 2 or 3 more losses in that one season. And could very well mean that.
And you wouldn't weigh the pros outweigh the cons with that because of the fact that right now there's no structure with a cap. When there is one, maybe you let the $2 million quarterback walk because you'd like to save the $2 million and spread it out a little bit more to keep the other 3 players instead of 1, for instance. And now's the time to ask for more because of the fact that, well, you want to get as much percentage on the very first year of this as you can because who knows where we're going to end up. The whole thing is just mind-boggling how we got here. Everyone just took a step back, and those, not everyone, leadership took a step back, and those that stepped forward to lead, or it's why we're in a situation where the quarterback after 1 year is saying, yeah, this isn't enough. I'd like to be paid more. We're in negotiations. Here's your deadline, Saturday. I mean, it's nuts.
Well, and look, I think in this situation, the coach likely, first off, after just putting their head in their palms on their desk when they get the news of this and hear this, they're just like, can we please just make this work?
I know.
They're going to the collective and being like, just let's make it work where everybody's happy and hope it's not too much of an expense. And how much more do we have left over?
Now let's also view it from this angle just briefly. Now, if you're the basketball coach, what are you thinking?
You're thinking
because the cap is the cap.
Let's hope we don't
athletics.
lose that other transfer we really need to have a competitive team next year.
Yeah, the cap is for athletics.
Yeah.
So if you're the University of Florida, and let's say this was happening at Florida right now, basketball, you're the national champion. Maybe you don't have the ability to just go to the funds and say, yeah, well. Give the quarterback what he wants.
I just think very few schools
universities could be way different.
We can act like it's unlimited. I just think very few schools have that unlimited budget. Like Nike is a good example. A lot of people are trying to point, Nico to closer to home and Nike and Oregon, right? So Oregon, Nike, Yes, Phil Knight could spend more than everybody else if he wanted, but Phil Knight has a lot of interest with a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So if he just decided to outbid everybody,
which he could have already done,
outbid everybody in the Nike family, if he just said, I'm going to blow money on players so Oregon can win national titles, then, at some point you're defeating your own clients. Right, with that. You're taking away from them also, which I think is a law of diminishing returns.
Coming up, Armando Salguero will join us. But first, maintaining with Tyrus, an upcoming guest, Officer Brandon Tatum.
But isn't it nice to be in a country where we can sit here and talk about that?
Yeah.
And none of the producers are like, what? They're going to run for office? What? No, not you guys. It's beautiful that you can have those aspirations and say things like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see how I feel. That's the beauty of this country.
Yeah, only in America can we do this. Leave it up to these leftist, nut jobs. They'll be telling us that not a black man can't do this, or black people can't do this, or you're discriminated against, and it's unequal opportunities. And it's like, we smart enough to know that, generally speaking, there's no apprehension. Many people, I would tell you, to be honest, if you or I ever ran for office, white people would love us. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like somehow there's a racist group trying to prevent black people from doing that. And I think the people that will support us the most would be white. So I think that's the beauty of America. And I wish that everybody saw that, Tyrus. I wish that everybody could just take a step back, man. Put that politics aside, put your phone down, look around, smell the roses. We are in the greatest country. And not only the greatest country to ever live, Tyrus, we're in the greatest country ever lived at the greatest time ever.